All right, so welcome back to another episode of Finding Your Way with Lori and Tonya. We are super excited you're here. Listen, if you are a first-time listener, we wholeheartedly believe that you have found us for a reason. There's something in today's episode for you. And if you're a return listener of ours, thank you. Thank you for tuning back in. Thank you for liking and sharing. And we hope that today you find something that feels good to you. So, you know, Lori and I have been talking about, it's March. So we are recording this on March 1st. We were just kind of having that conversation about where we are, where we thought we would be, and really and truly going through where we have grown and what setbacks we have had already this year. And it's pretty interesting to be able to discuss those things and identify them.
Yeah, so if you listen to any of our previous podcasts, we talked about in December, we sat down and had a session where we just planned out and all the things we want to see unfold for us in 2022. And, you know, we wrote those things down. We spent quite a bit of time doing that and it was fun. And we've got those written down, but you have to keep looking at them, right? You have to keep them at the forefront of your mind. And I feel like January and February went by so quickly that I didn't really do that. I didn't study on what I was trying to manifest in 2022. I didn't keep it at the forefront of my mind. And so it was waking up this morning going, oh my gosh, it's already March. Like it's already March. And where am I with what I said I was going to do? And I've got a tendency to try things, put things into motion, and then if I have a setback, almost feeling like I failed and want to quit. And I caught myself doing that. So I caught myself doing that, have some really high bar health goals for this year. And one of them was around the way I eat and fasting. If anybody knows about intermittent fasting, and I've done a lot of research on that. And for me with gut issues, it seems like it would be helpful for that and for just health overall. And so I toyed with it in January and, you know, played with different eating windows and fasting windows and things like that. But come the end of January, I was like, I wasn't consistent. I wasn't consistent with what I was doing. So I hit February 1st and I was like, I'm doing this. And for the first 2 weeks of February, I did. And I felt so much better, clearer, like my mind was clearer. My gut was starting to feel better. And then we went out of town and traveled and it all went out the window. Like I didn't plan appropriately. Right. And so then I was beating myself up. I was like, I can't believe you had gotten on a course and then you didn't stay consistent with it. However, I had to change my mindset a little bit because I have to remind myself when I go to that negative space in my head and I'm hardest on myself than anybody else. I had to say, well, wait, what did you accomplish? And what I did accomplish was, you know, I'm not starting from zero right now. I'm starting from experience. So I've experienced, I know that I can do it because I've done it in January and February. And so it's just getting right back up and setting your mind to it and doing it. So, you know, that's part of growth too, right? The mindset piece of it is a huge part of the growth, because in the past, I think I would have just quit and just beat myself up about it and not shifted my mindset to actually congratulate myself for what I was able to achieve. And then just say, you know what, today's a new day. Let's get it.
That's right. Well, and for me, you know, back also to piggyback on the health thing, you know, I had said that I wanted overall mental, physical health. Like health for me was overall. I know meditation and some focus sessions really do a whole lot for my mental health. I also know that I have to be more physically active now that I'm working from home and have been for, gosh, what, 2 years now? Has it been that long? That I am stagnant. I'm not moving around. I'm not out. I'm not, you know, so I literally am sitting at my desk for 8 and 10 hours sometimes. So I had set some health goals around the mental aspect. I'm going to, you know, 5 to 7 to 10 minutes a day in a meditative state. It always works for me. And so I started off the year doing so good. same thing. Like I did the 21-day challenge and I was doing meditation, and about, I don't know, 15, 16 days in, I don't know if we'd gone out of town or what happened, but I fell off the wagon. And if you are a normal meditation person, or even if you dabble in it, once you make it a part of your habit, it just becomes a habit, right? So you do it. And then, but once you get out, it's so easy to not make yourself get back into it. And so I felt like, gosh, I was doing so good. And for those first, 3 weeks, 4 weeks of the year, I was really doing it. And then about week 4, I finally said, okay, those who know me, I hate to exercise. I despise it. I'm sorry. I was active as a kid because I was a sports person. But if you talk about really truly like taking an exercise class or getting on an elliptical, I hate it. But I also know at my age, it is a necessary evil. And so I thought, okay, I got to find some way to do this. And I'm also not a morning person at all. So I decided that I'm going to get up at 6:30 or 6 a.m. and join a boot camp style 45-minute class at 6:30, 4 days a week. And Lori can attest, I've been cussing about it for weeks, but I am literally on week 7 of 4 times a week. I have committed to it. I am on week 7 and have successfully finished this. Like I'm on, what's today? So I'm 2 days into week 7. I'm going to do it. I'm going to continue to do it. And I might not love it, but I'm doing it because I've committed to it. So I just told Lori, I was like, how great would I feel? Because I do feel better. Like physically, I have more energy. I feel like I'm less cloudy. But if I was being as consistent with my meditation as I am now with my exercise, how much better would I feel having all of those? And really, I would feel a little more successful too. So as good as I've been doing the exercise piece, I've been like so upset with myself that I'm not making this time, and I have the time. I could do it. I'm just not making it a priority to also add in that meditation. And I know I would feel better. So when we were talking about it today, I thought, God, like there it is. Like there for me is the setback of in one area I'm growing, but I've taken a huge step back in another one, and I can do them both. And I know I can. And so tomorrow is a new day. And so I'm going to get back into my meditation routine as well as my exercise routine. So, that's for me so far this year is a good example of sometimes when you grow in one area, you do have setbacks in others because you're focused in one place. And so you kind of have to be able to spread that focus a little bit.
Yeah. What do they say? The optimist says that 1 step forward and 2 steps back, that isn't anything but cha-cha.
Right.
we just doing a little dance over here with our growth and our setbacks.
That's what I feel like. Yeah, that's what I feel like.
Yeah. But it is, I think it's worth, I know for me, because I am hard on myself, it's important to recognize where you do have those setbacks, but to also recognize where you're growing. And so it's that combination of both. And like you were saying, you've stuck to it. The exercise, even though you're not the biggest fan, you're doing it because you made a promise to yourself. I think that's part of it, is when we break promises to ourselves, that's when we feel like the setback is a failure, but it really isn't. It's noticing it and, okay, well, what can I do about it? And changing it. Right. Because yes, it's a promise to yourself, which is a big thing, but it's also a promise to yourself. Like you can remedy that, right? You can change your tactic, your strategy, and see what feels right now. Maybe what we said we were going to do in December doesn't feel good in March,
Right.
So it's giving yourself a little bit of grace.
Your mindset. Yeah. It's changing mindset around it like that, like you said. I mean, it's changing. Okay. When I said it then and I started doing it, it felt good. It felt like something I was supposed to do. Maybe I'm not. Now, I'm not saying use that as an excuse.
Right.
But you can revamp your goals all through the year. I'll tell you another growth that I'm proud of, but there are some folks in my life that maybe, not that they're not proud of it, but I think they've seen a change is I had started with a therapist about this time last year, had a lot of family struggles and a lot of things going on. And I just needed somebody to talk to. I needed a professional. I had tried counseling, over the years, through divorce, through children, through depression, through, and it just never landed. It never felt good. And so I think that I had committed to starting some therapy, like a real therapist. And I told myself once a month, and then I realized that wasn't enough. So I've been going twice a month. And gosh, first of all, she's amazing. And when I sometimes hear her repeat my words to me or give me just a little bit of a different perspective, like I hear where you're going with that. Have you thought about this? And some of that for me is communication. I was not a very good communicator, especially in a 20-year married relationship. Towards the end, it was stuffing it all down. It was, it's too far gone. I'm not going to even, I'm not even going to have this conversation anymore because I've had it 100 times, so I, in a new relationship now, have really made a concerted effort to be more communicative. What I want, gratitude to my partner, being graceful and knowing when I've messed up and owning it. And so I think for me, being able to have conversations around how things make me feel instead of pointing the finger or saying you didn't do this right or you did that. And so I've really gained some growth, I think, in that area. And I think it's uncomfortable for me a little bit. Because it makes me really vulnerable. And I think it might be a little uncomfortable for all the people that are experiencing it a little bit too, because it's so different from my normal means of communication.
Mm-hmm.
But I do see it as growth, and I see it as something that's going to help me with a better relationship with my children, with my friend group, having these kind of conversations, with my partner. I mean, there's growth in that, but it's a different kind of growth, right? So I had relationship goals, and it was really being more connected and being more in the moment in those relationships. And so I think the growth I'm experiencing in communication, so far, now we're just a couple of months in, but there's still some work to do, but I can definitely see that for myself.
Yeah, I feel like both of us have grown in that area. And it's like the little, step-by-step process we always talk about. You have to recognize it first, and then
Right.
figure out what you're going to do about it, and then put it into action. And I think with me, last year I grew quite a bit in that communication area of like speaking my mind and not letting things fester, because in the past, I would let little things build up and then I just blow, right? And so instead of addressing things as they came up and were uncomfortable, letting them pile up a little bit. And so last year I did much better at that. Like, as things come up, let's address it, whatever. However, I would say last year I still was shaky about it. Like, I'm speaking, but my voice is shaking, right? Because I wasn't comfortable with it. And I feel like this year, even in the first few months, I'm doing it more with certainty and with no emotion tied to it. It's really like, this is how I'm feeling. Like, you did this and this is how it made me feel. And not being tied to, like, I'm not trying to pick an argument or anything like that, but it's more, I'm expressing things that in the past I never would have expressed. Like, oh, you hurt my feelings, right? But not being so emotional about it that we get in a fight or disagreement or argument about it.
Well, and I think what I noticed in you too is you're doing it unapologetically.
Yeah.
And I think I'm not quite there yet, but I have had a conversation recently that I thought, okay, my next step would be to apologize for me telling you how I feel. And so I have to taper that, because I shouldn't have to apologize. I don't owe you an apology. It's how I feel. It's how I feel.
Right.
And so I think you're doing a better job of that too. And when sometimes I hear your word tracks, I'm like, okay, I'm going to use that next time. That's a good thing about having the person to bounce everything off of.
Yes. And I was telling Tonya, not everything's a setback. So we sat down in December and wrote out some like big goals for 2022. And one of mine was, I know that live music raises my energy. It raises my vibe. I feel better. It just puts me in a good mood. And so I had written out a goal of going to a live music event at least four times or more in 2022. And I scratched that off my list in February already. So we were able to go to Nashville. We saw live music every single day. And I came back from that trip just high energy, high vibe. And I told Tonya, this is how the universe works, right? So I pull up, we had just gotten back, and I pull up to Fresh Market, and I get out of my car to go into shop. I'm like, what is that? And there was a mariachi band in the parking lot, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. It was like, you asked for live music, Lori, and here it is. We're giving it to you everywhere you can go. We're giving it to you. And so it is, even the growth things, it's like recognizing the growth, right? And recognizing what you do manifest and what does come to be. It's not all about being down on yourself because you've had a setback, but it is, let's celebrate the growth too, and actually recognize when we are doing well in an area.
Absolutely. Well, and you saying that makes me remember, like, one of mine was joy. So I wrote down, I need more joy in my life. And to me, that's anything fun, like all kinds of things are fun, but I need more of that. And so I manifested a weekend with my partner and his son and my son, and we just had the best time. Like, we laughed and cut up, and we went to the beach, and we played Topgolf, and we did all these things. And my heart was full. Like, it was just so much fun. And then I come back and I start going, okay, what are we doing next? Like, I'm in that vibe. And then I start looking at my calendar, and Lori and I have some friends that we're doing an April trip with. And then I have an Ireland trip for 10 days in May. And then I've got an Orlando trip in July. And so I start looking, and I'm like, holy moly, like, I've got all these things already on the books that I didn't recognize as fulfilling that vibration of fun and joy. And that's, for me, I mean, that's exciting. And so that helps raise my vibe, but I just had not put two and two together. So recognizing, you saying that, I was like, oh my gosh, that's my trip to the beach with the boys was just fun and just really fulfilled that joy piece for me.
Yeah.
And I think that when we start recognizing the little things as checking off boxes on our list or helping us reach some of those goals, like fun, we start attracting, just like your mariachi band, we start attracting more and more of that in crazy ways that we don't expect.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, I had a bunch of things that I wrote down in December that have come to be. Like, I wanted to get out of my comfort zone a little bit. So guess what? I went and got certified as a Reiki 1 master, and I joined a beginner yoga class. Never would have done that. Like, it's been on my mind for forever. I never would have done it, but I promised myself that I'd sort of skirt those little lines of my comfort zone, my bubble. And so, one of the things was hiking. I've got my hiking, I went and tried them on, got my hiking boots, my hiking socks. I got a hike planned coming up. I mean, it's little actions like that. And so the real good thing about checking in on yourself, like checking in on the things you said you wanted to do early on, is so that we don't get all the way to September and go, dog, I didn't do those things I really wanted to do. So I think March is the perfect time to sit down and really think about what were your plans for this year? How are you doing with those things? Check in, like, are you having some growth? And if you are, celebrate it. And if you're having some setbacks, what can you do to get back on track? Because it's not the end just because maybe you fell off, and got a little setback, but it's just recognizing it and figuring out what's my next step.
And if you did not set some goals, so if you're a new listener and you have not done that, then March is a great time to start doing that. If you go back and listen to some of our podcasts, we've got a whole 3 or 4 part series on goal setting. And there is one on us telling you kind of what goals we did set and some action steps we plan to take and how we plan to do that. And then again, this is just the check-in, and we're holding each other accountable. We're holding ourselves accountable. But like Lori just said, we are also looking at what we hadn't done and saying, okay, what was the setback and why, and how can I remedy that? But we're celebrating. We know when we celebrate the little small wins and the reaches and the steps, that gives us the energy rise that we need to continue to manifest the positive things, and those steps coming for us and coming easy. So celebrate as much as you worry about the setbacks, celebrate too.